Hi again, everybody. This is Arnold Hamilton, editor of the Oklahoma Observer at our offices in Oklahoma City, along with Richard Fricker, our longtime correspondent in Tulsa, for another one of our weekly Gab Fests here, where we talk about the hot goings on in Oklahoma politics and news. And Richard, our plate's overflowing this week, but there are a couple of things that I think are particularly interesting and that we might want to discuss. One is the Tulsa mayor's race and the injection of quite a strain of partisanship involving the Tea Party, I think, in that election. And then also the conviction this week of former state representative Randy Terrell, who was probably best known over the years for his anti-immigration legislation, but who in the end ran afoul of the law for attempting to engineer some political maneuverings that you and I have both written about, and of course, having spent a fair amount of time around Randy Terrell and my read on his personality, you somehow knew that things were not going to end well for Terrell. I couldn't have predicted necessarily that he would have ended up at the courthouse, but you knew somehow that his personality and his willingness to push the envelope could eventually come back to bite him, and apparently it's done so here.
I think so, and I think as you had noted at one point, his candle had pretty well burned down in the legislature by the time his last term of office was over. I will say this about the trial: the defense that says, "Oh, everyone's lying but me," usually only ends one way. That's the way that it did yesterday, with Terrell being convicted. As far as the actual charges, of course, former Senator Leftwich, she's still got her trial coming up next month. But what always has interested me was that he, first of all, created this job, and that was testified to.
At the medical examiner's office.
Right. And he got the money from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, and he referred to it as their slush fund. And that is a fund that has very little public oversight, and they collect a huge amount of money off legislation on wire transfers, that drug lords were wiring their money back to Mexico, and therefore they charge a fee every time someone wires something, which basically it's a tax on Mexican labor. It's nothing to do with drugs at all, but that's where the money winds up, and it gives that agency a lot of money to play with, and no one seems to be too concerned that this money's not, that no one is concerned about where the money's going or what they're doing with it. And that, to me, has always been one of the underlying stories, as has how come Anthony Sykes didn't take the hit along with Randy Terrell, because it all happened in Sykes' office. So that's kind of where I am on it. The Tulsa World, as we noted, had a wonderful cartoon where it shows...
It did. I don't know if you can see this. Or how well you can see it, but
there's Randy Terrell in his orange jumpsuit, and there's a sign back there saying "Mi casa es su casa," and the guy standing there says "Hola, Randy Terrell," and sort of poetic justice that he may wind up in the slam with many of the people that he helped put there.
Well, it's interesting to me. He apparently told reporters on his way out the door at the courthouse after the judge agreed to release him on appeal. He said, "My message to the rest of the legislature would be, you better watch your back, because if you make the district attorney mad, you may be next." And so that doesn't show much contrition on Terrell's part, you wouldn't think. And the other thing that I would point out, David Prater appears to be about as straight a shooter as I've ever seen in the district attorney's office in Oklahoma City. Now, the bar may be set pretty low when you consider Bob Macy's reign of error over the years, and Curtis Harris even before that. Yeah, but nonetheless, Prater does seem to be a straight shooter, and clearly the jury didn't buy any of this denial from Terrell.
Yeah, and the two people you mentioned, I mean, if they could have gotten away with it, they'd had the death penalty for overtime parking. But, yeah, and making a remark like that when you're awaiting sentencing is not real bright. And I think this is showing a side of Terrell that people really had not seen previously, is that he may not be the brightest lad in the world, and people need to remember this man's got a law degree. He's not a member of the bar. He's not a lawyer as such, but he has a law degree, so he should have known where the statutes lie. And he got himself into this fix, and his remarks may actually cost him probation. Who knows? We won't know for a while.
Well, I think Terrell is a very smart guy, but I think his mouth gets the better of him, and the hubris, Terrell's hubris becomes a real problem sometimes for him. So I'm like you. I can't imagine that his attorney was thrilled about that comment afterwards. So let's talk a minute about this Tulsa mayor's race, because you actually were at the Dog and Pony show at the Tulsa Press Club the other day when boy, there were some heavy hitters from across the Republican spectrum there on behalf of Dewey Bartlett.
A quick brief history. Last Wednesday, I actually happened to be at the press club with our friend Ray Piercy of the Oklahoma Eagle and Doug Dodd, who's a First Amendment attorney. We're sitting around. It's about 4:30, 5:30, just visiting, and we get an email from the club manager that there's going to be a press conference Thursday, the next day. State, local, and federal lawmakers are going to have a press conference. And the manager happened to be there, and we asked him, what is this about? He said, I don't know. I just told you what they told me. They booked the hall. He had nothing to do with it. And the press club is always open to lawmakers wanting to have a press conference. So show up the next day, 5:30. And, well, about midday Thursday, before the press conference, the Tulsa World posts on their website that former Senator Rick Santorum is going to be in town to endorse Dewey Bartlett for re-election as mayor of the city of Tulsa. Now, what a former senator knows about governing the city of Tulsa, who knows? But he is the guy who won the Oklahoma primary last time around. He didn't win much else, and we do not call him President Santorum. So he's just sort of been out there in political limbo. So get there at about 5:30, and it is like being inside the bubble of the Tea Party. There's Jim Inhofe, Jim Bridenstine, Santorum, Bingman, the Senate leader, several others, and various Republican luminaries. But there's no press conference. There's TV cameras, and they're all making statements, but there's no press conference. But one quick look around, and this is very Republican. So I asked Dewey about this, and he said, well, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but I'm a Republican, and these people are here to back me. And then I asked him if this is going to be a referendum on the Tea Party. And he said, well, not really, but I'm hoping but I'm sure they'll vote for me. And that just sort of removed any pretense of a nonpartisan election, which is what it's supposed to be. That having been said, anyone that has been in Tulsa that does not know that Dewey Bartlett's a Republican and does not know that former Mayor Kathy Taylor is a Democrat, you kind of wonder if you actually want them in the voting booth anyway. But
well, and it looks to me like because there were corporatist Republicans there too that day, and it looks to me like Bartlett could feel this thing slipping away, and that he needed something to energize the two wings of the Republican Party today, the Tea Party wing and the corporatist wing, and this was one way that he thought he might be able to goose the turnout for the November 12th election.
I think so. A couple of things, and by the way, no one made a speech. The whole thing was over in 45 minutes. And I refer to it as a Tea Party flash mob more than a press conference. There is a poll, I'm told there's a poll out. I have not seen it. But it shows that the race is neck and neck with Kathy Taylor slightly ahead, but only within the margin of error. And I don't know what that margin is. But that's a rumor that is out there. But I think everyone will agree that it is going to be, at this point, it looks close, and probably Dewey would think that if he could marshal the Tea Party forces in what would normally be a low turnout election, it would be to his benefit.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
we will know here in a couple of weeks, I guess, on that front, and we'll know soon what's going to happen with Randy Terrell and with former Senator Debbie Leftwich as well before long. In fact, Terrell, I think, is scheduled to be sentenced about less than a week before Leftwich goes on trial. Would you make a book on whether or not she actually ends up going to trial after this?
Um, I would imagine there's discussions about a guilty plea. I was kind of surprised one of them didn't plead guilty before the Terrell trial, but I don't know. She's got her legal counsel is a former U.S. attorney, so he knows his way around a courtroom. That's why we have trials. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, indeed.
There's an old timer when I got in this business told me you don't bet on elections and you don't bet on juries. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we'll know more here in a month or so on both fronts. Richard, thanks so much. Great seeing you again, and we'll look forward to chatting down the road.
See you next time.
All righty.